Hi friends, Mindy here. Today I'm going to be working in my little book that I created using the verses of the human condition cards from Bythewell4God, and I'm going to be working in this one today, this page that talks about trials. It's 1 Peter 1, 6 and 7, talking about rejoicing in our trials. And I have this little Polaroid piece here that I know that I want to use. I'm trying to kind of tone down some of the yellow in this background. This page is just, it's very yellow, which is beautiful, but I'm just going to kind of tone it down with bringing in some other colors and things. So anyway, I have this little Polaroid piece and I saved it. I was going to use it in a memory deck system, and that's why it's punched down there at the bottom, and I ended up not doing that. But I wanted to save it, and I figure I can find a way to use it, and this is the perfect time. So I have these typewriters left over. This is from the Famous Last Words collection, devotional set from Bythewell4God. I had a couple of little typewriters left over, but they are on clear sticker paper. So I'm just adding them to some white cardstock, and I'm just going to fussy cut that out. That way when I put it on top of this Polaroid here, you can actually see it. So what I'm going to do is end up kind of creating a collage in the middle of this little Polaroid frame. So I have some ephemera. This is a little ephemera packet from Tim Holtz, and I wanted to leave some of this in just so you can kind of see how these things kind of come to be, like in my own mind, how I work through them. So this is talking about like, you know, when you've suffered a little while, you know, these things are good for you and everything. So I had that clock, and that made sense to me for this particular collage. And so I'm just pulling out things that I think might coordinate. I'm just going through this entire ephemera pack and pulling out things that I think will work well with the message that I'm trying to portray, and with the colors that I'm using, which is, I'm going to use some of this washi tape. And so I'm pulling out some of these pieces that have some of that, the pinkish red in there. I have pulled out some butterflies. I pulled out some flowers. The page on the right has butterflies in the background. I don't know if you can really tell, but so I'm wanting to kind of pull those butterflies over onto the left side. I have some pieces here that I'm pulling out that have some of that kind of green that's in the background of this washi tape, and I'm doing that to kind of create a little cohesive kind of collage thing down at the end. And this is really just the process that I go through. Sometimes it's one way to create like a little cluster. I'm just pulling out a bunch of different options, and we will see how it all ends up. So I've pulled out some flowers, some more flowers, just kind of going back through everything. And then I found this one that had yellow in it, which was perfect. So it had the yellow and the pink, and these little labels and just different things. I really loved this map, but obviously that wasn't going to go with my theme. So I loved that ledger as well. It had some of the right colors, but it just wasn't working for this particular thing. So everything that I do is going to be kind of contained within that Polaroid section. So it talks about that, you know, for now, for a little while, you have trials and suffering, but you know, it tests our faith and everything. And so what I have going on here, I have that little clock in the background, and now I'm just kind of rehearsing different pieces. So this one, I liked the red on it, but it was just too dark. And then I like these little labels, but they're a little bit too small. And I wanted to make sure to have the flowers in here, both the yellow and the pink flowers, because it's going to tie together the yellow from the background and the yellow that's in the washi tape, and also the flowers and the pink that's in the washi tape. So I'm trying to pull all these elements together in this one little cluster. And I have this little label, and I decided I was going to use my Dymo embossing label maker here, and I wrote out the word rejoice. And it's too long. It just is like ever so slightly too long, but I'm going to make that work in a different way. So I'm just going to set that off to the side here for a second while I'm working on the rest of my cluster. I will probably trim that down just a little bit, but I will be able to make that work. So I'm setting that aside, and I have these other little pieces that I'm kind of putting back that I don't think I'll be using. Different butterflies. That one had orange on it, just wasn't the right one. And then there was this little ticket in there that said dance on it, and I wanted to use it, but I couldn't really find a place for it, and so I set it off to the side. It will reappear here in a second, and then I'm just kind of rehearsing this washi tape, like how is that going to look with everything. And I'm gonna glue everything down. I have this one little butterfly, it's got some yellow in its wings, and I am putting that kind of just, it's the one thing that's sort of hanging off of the Polaroid here, and then everything else is going to be glued together in this little cluster. So I've kind of layered my pieces where I think that they're going to go, and I'm going to take some washi tape scraps, and I rubbed it off on my hand to get some of the sticky off, so I didn't want it to be too sticky, and I'm just applying this to the top of trying to hold all these little pieces together. And then I'm going to flip it over, and I will add my adhesive here. This is one of the ways when you have a cluster like this to kind of keep everything in the same exact location. I've seen some people use press and seal to do this. I've not tried that, but it seems pretty genius. And then as I was trying to get all these to lay down the right way, one of them fell down, and anyway, so I ended up struggling with this a little bit more than I normally would. Usually the washi tape does the trick for me, but for whatever, I was kind of on the struggle bus here today, but that's okay. So you can kind of see everything is pretty much where I want it. I'm just kind of moving things around. You have a little bit of wiggle room when you're using liquid adhesive. This Barely Arts glue, it dries pretty quickly, so you don't have a whole lot of time. And then I ended up with this little space down here at the bottom that I wasn't really happy with, and so I was able to pull in that little ticket that said dance on it. But I wanted it kind of like layered in between the flower piece, so I just took my scissors and cut a little slit in that little piece of ephemera, and then I was able to make it so that it was behind the typewriter, but the flowers were kind of over the top of it. And then now I'm just going through and adding some glue in all the little pieces that are not completely adhered down, and just making my little collage that way. So I wanted to leave all of that in so you can kind of see the process sometimes, and the decisions, and why kind of why a person does. I mean, everyone is different, so you might choose your own things, but that's just kind of the thought process that goes through my mind, is why I'm choosing colors, or why I'm choosing pieces, or whatever, just to kind of to help understand why I picked it. Anyway, so at one point I thought I was going to turn this kind of sideways, but when I did that, it made the composition of the typewriter and everything seem sideways, so I ended up just going ahead and adhering it down just straight. And I like kind of adhering things kind of crooked. A lot of times it just adds some movement and stuff to your page instead of everything seeming so flat, but for this particular piece, it just was not going to work for me anyway. So I just added this washi tape kind of down at the bottom to cover up those holes that I had punched on my little Polaroid there, and now you can't really tell that ever happened, so I'm just trimming off the excess of the washi tape on both the side and the bottom here. And then there's this one little section where the washi tape stops and doesn't go all the way to the edge, and you could totally leave this, but for some reason that was going to annoy me, so I just took a little piece of scrap of washi here, and I just added just a little square right there in that bottom section. It just, I don't know why I needed to do that, but to my eye that just made sense. So I'm just trimming off the little bit there. You totally could have left it, but I needed to do that. So now I'm back to wanting to add my little word here that says rejoice, and so I'm going to put it down in this bottom left hand corner. I'm going to trim it down a little bit, as much as I can, and then I'm going to adhere this little red tag here, and it's going to go up over the washi tape and into the Polaroid, and it's going to again just kind of tie everything together, and then I'll be able to add this word that says rejoice. And anytime you can layer pieces or elements that are like over one line. So like where the line of the washi tape is behind there, I'm kind of covering up that line just a little bit with this label, and it just pulls everything together instead of seeming like, you know, just blobs of different things on your page. So on this right side, I wanted to add a little bit of the washi and bring over a few of the elements so that it didn't seem like I had this colorful page next to this very yellow page without color. So I just went ahead and I tore this washi in half. It's really wide washi. So I tore it in half and then added some of that up at the top right hand side. I didn't go all the way across, just in the, you know, 2/3 of the way or whatever, just to bring in and tie in some of the washi tape from the left side of the page. And then I'm going to bring in a couple more elements that will also help tie everything together. So I'm going to add a couple more butterflies, and I have this label to kind of balance the label that's in the bottom left hand corner. That's another kind of trick, is if you have something on one side, kind of do it in the opposite on the other side, and it just helps bring symmetry to everything. So I have the 2 butterflies there, and then just to create that kind of visual triangle you hear people talking about, I'm just going to add another little butterfly down there at the bottom. I didn't really feel like I needed 3 clusters of anything. I felt like that was enough to kind of just balance out the page, because there's enough happening in the background on this side. So, and then the visual weight of the scripture kind of balances out the visual weight of the Polaroid on the left side. So that is my little entry for this day. And if you liked this video, I would really appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up. That really helps my channel. And subscribe if you haven't already. And until next time, bye-bye.